So good morning, everyone. My name is Sudhir. I'm a Checkmk Consultant at Tribe 29. Today, I will be doing the demo on Kubernetes monitoring with Checkmk. I also did the same yesterday. Probably if you have already seen the same demo yesterday, I'll be doing something. I will be adding a few more points today, and I will also do a walk through the documentation that we have, so that you can follow me along as well. If you already have a Checkmk, if you already have a Kubernetes cluster running, so let's get started. Uh, this is our Kubernetes documentation. We have two flavors of it. One is the 2.0 and 1.6. You can also toggle with the language based on your requirement. These are the different check plugins and the different. So these are the different resources that we are monitoring, and Kubernetes monitoring has been implemented since version 1.5.p12, and since 1.6 we have the daemon pod replicas, service ports, and the node and cluster level metrics introduced inside the special agent. To set up the monitoring, it's pretty easy. All you need to do is you need the service account and related cluster role inside your Kubernetes cluster. So we already have a template for you. You can just open this. When you click here, it will open another GitHub. It will direct you to our GitHub page where we already have a YAML file, which consists of a cluster role, and it creates a service account, a cluster role, and it will, and that is the only thing that you need. So to 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 use this, once you have copied this over to your Kubernetes cluster, you can just apply this YAML file like we normally do for any kind of deployments, or if you want to create any resources. After that, we can create the we need the service account detail in the base 64 encoding format. So we will be fetching the tokens, we will be fetching the secrets, and out of the secrets, we will be first fetching the certificate, which we will be uploading inside Checkmk, so that we can, so when we configure the data source connection, we can also make sure that we verify against this certificate. So I will show you that there are two options. You can also verify with the certificate, which is the recommended and the trusted way. Otherwise, you can also ignore the certificate if you are doing a test, or if you have just a demo environment and you want to play around. This is the screenshot from our global settings trust store, where you can upload the same certificate. You can just copy over it and paste it here. If you don't use the, if you have set up verify the certificate and if you have not uploaded the certificate, then you will get this kind of error, which means that you have not imported the CA. With the same command line where you fetch the secret here, you can replace the CA cert with the token, and you will get this long token that you can copy. In order to copy it, we also offer this Excel clipboard with which you can just copy paste. Otherwise, you have to manually drag from the left to the end of this whole text and then copy paste. So feel free to choose whichever way is comfortable for you. So this after copying this token, you can paste it in your password store, which is available in the Vato module. If you're coming from 1.6, in 2.0, you can just search for the keyword password, and there you will find the password store. Otherwise, you can directly open the data source program and copy paste the whole string inside the token. This is also one way it should work. And once you have done this, then all you need to do is create a host with the yeah. So once you've done this, this is how you create the data source program rule, wherein you specify the token that you created in previously. You have to copy it here. The standard port that we use for Kubernetes monitoring is port 443. But if you have another port, if you have a custom URL, if you have any prefix, if you have there is any other path that you would like to add to your prefix, that is also possible. It is not there in the screenshot, but I will show you in the data source program. After you save the rule, once you hit on save and services go to service configuration, you will quickly get the Kubernetes um, metrics. For example, you will get your component status, all the namespaces that you have, all the pods that you have. So this is something like how many pods request you have, what are the allocatable ones, and capacity usage, and yeah, all these kind of other metrics. In order to create the resources inside Checkmk, we will be using the DCD. So what DCD does, it creates the resources. It creates the piggybacked data that you get outside from your Kubernetes cluster, and all the resources that Kubernetes has, all the objects, they get piggybacked to this source host that you configure. And with the DCD daemon, that it gets automatically added, and whenever an object is removed or changed or added, so this will detect it. This will detect the new change on the next reschedule in on the next check interval, whichever has been configured, and this will add, remove, or update the resource or objects accordingly. Uh, Now, once you have already set up everything now, and you have also created a host, all when you click on save and services go to configuration, you will also get the nodes. You will also get pods and all the different objects that you have mentioned in your data source program. And on top of that, the most important thing in the dynamic infrastructure are the labels. So you will also get these labels returned to each object that you have chosen in your data source program. In addition, a very nice feature, you can also see the hardware software inventory. So this will also be added as a service check, which I will also show you in the demo. So when you drill down to for example, there will be hardware and software, and in the hardware software, you can drill down to different to sub tabs, and here you can see the information about each and every Kubernetes object that you have in your cluster. In case you are playing around with, so you can also delete it afterwards. So this is the way you can delete it. In the OpenShift installations, it's the same way. But in my demo today, I have two setups. I have an on-premise Kubernetes cluster with a master and a worker node set up on my virtual machine. And the other setup is from Google Kubernetes Engine. But yes, if you also have OpenShift installations running Kubernetes cluster, then we also support it. And these are the instructions how to get it up and running. If you have a Rancher based installation, that you have to create again a service account and then grant the resources and the necessary permissions. And afterwards, once you have configured the user, the cluster roles and everything, then you have to copy the certificate and the token, the same procedure that I showed you just when I initially introduced you to the tokens and the CA certs. There is also a way you can use our Checkmk event console to send the logs from your Kubernetes cluster to our event console. So here you can use Fluent D that you can set up on your Kubernetes cluster, and this Fluent D can just send like normal syslogs or all the events from your Kubernetes setup to directly to Checkmk event console, and you can set up different regular expressions here with which you can filter out. If you have multiple Kubernetes installations, then you can also filter out stuff here.
And is this, sorry, I have a question. Is this function, will that also be available for OpenShift and Kubernetes?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a Fluent D daemon, this is also possible with your OpenShift installation. So the process remains the same. All we need is a Fluent D daemon. Even if you have an on-premise Kubernetes installation, so the process remains the same. There is a Fluent D daemon which listens for the logs, and there is an exporter for Fluent D to which it will dump everything, and that exporter will be the endpoint for Checkmk event console.
Okay, thanks. I will try that.
And yeah, so you can configure as many Kubernetes cluster you have in your setup. So today I'll be showing two, which I have set up in my environment. So this is I believe you can also see this terminal. Okay. So this is my FOSDEM site, which I'm using the 2.0 beta 5 community enterprise edition, and these are the hosts that I have in my setup. So I have the FOSDEM site itself, which is when I install Checkmk. So this is the standard site that that I set up. It's basically my local host, and then I have a Google Kubernetes cluster, and then I have a on-prem cluster, which would be the setup for my virtual machine. Here is the Google Cloud, the one which I created here. It's running 1.17.4, and it has 3 nodes, and this is the endpoint. So, and here you can find the certificate for it, and all the pods that get deployed are going to have this subnet. So let's quickly check the connectivity with this host. So it works. Now let's go back to our Checkmk screen. So I already created these two hosts, which I will be using for the demo. All I have done here is, let's go to the first. I already copied the IP address here, and I have set up the data source rule to be no Checkmk agent, all special configured agents, because here I will be using only the special agents for monitoring the Google Kubernetes cluster. And here I have set up the data source program rules. So first, this is where I copied over the token using the process that I showed you in the documentation. I'm using the namespace here. I'm ignoring the certificate errors, but yes, I can also verify it. I'm using the namespace. So what this specific option does, it will create. You can tie all the resources to each namespaces, or you can also ignore it to be use a namespace prefix. So when I choose this option, all the resources that gets added will not have the namespace in the front of it. But when I use this, so it will have all the namespaces. So for example, I have 3 or 4 namespaces, and I want all my resources to appear with their namespaces in front of it, with which gives me enough flexibility to configure specifically on my particular namespace. So I kept it here. In my polling, I don't have any endpoint daemon sets, stateful sets, so I'm not using that. And port remains the same for 4.3. And I have tied this rule to my explicit host here, which I created. If you want to understand each and every option in detail, there is a little bit of explanation here, which says that this rule selects the Kubernetes special agent. You can also activate the inline help, which gives you a bit more information what each of the different field does. For example, if I open port custom URL prefix, so this is how it will show you. You can also hide it using, again, clicking the same button. So yeah, so that was about the data source program. After that, I want to create everything automatically. So I will go to dynamic host management. Here I have disabled everything, but I was created everything beforehand. Just want to save some time. So here I created, so the unique ID and the title can be anything. Feel free to choose whichever name suits you. Here, the connector type is piggyback data, because we will be fetching everything to the source host, and via piggyback, we will be attaching everything to this source host and all the piggyback returned hosts. I want to create all the piggyback return data for this connection inside this folder. So I chose this, and rest everything remains the default. So I'm setting all my pods will not have any IP address, no SNMP, and it will be using only piggyback data. And when I don't, if I delete anything inside my Kubernetes cluster, it will automatically delete everything. It will automatically delete those hosts which don't exist in the Kubernetes environment. And I want to also make sure that I restrict it to my source. So this is my source host that I created. So this is where I have done the restriction. Now I will enable this rule, and let's save it and activate the changes. So you will quickly see now on the screen all the resources that were returned to this source host or all the piggybacked hosts. They are being created. So these are the hosts that are being created, and they have the namespaces tied to each other. So for example, kube system is a namespace for this deployment. So this is how it will look like. And on the next refresh, you may see that the changes are gone, because DCD does that automatically. You don't have to take care of it. You don't have to click anywhere manually. All you have to do is save your DCD connection and just activate the changes. After that, it will keep on detecting the changes inside your Kubernetes environment, and it will delete or add the resources accordingly. So now if we go back to, so basically, I also created a host group. So for example, all my Google Cloud hosts will be attached to this host. And for this, I created a rule, which was here. So this rule states that anything that gets created under Google Cloud Kubernetes folder will have the host group. So anything that gets created under this folder will have the host group this. So that's why you see this on the right hand side. So if I just want to see my Google Cloud Kubernetes host, I can just click here, and this would be all the resources that get returned. But otherwise, you can also click here and see everything. So this will also include all the other two hosts which we have in the main directory, all the other three hosts which we have in the main directory, and the piggybacked host. These are the nodes which are part of the cluster 2, and they already have some basic checks, like these are the standard 3 checks. but I would like to show you the hardware software inventory. Let us inventorize this. I think I forgot to add missing remove services. Ah, yes, I did. All right. So this is the K8 cluster. Here I have the hardware inventories. So for example, if I go here and open the software, I can see that for the Kubernetes, this is the, I can see the nodes. These are the 3 nodes which were part of my cluster. And these are the 3 roles. So these are the different roles, and all the roles have their own namespaces defined here. Just to double check, we can also see, for example, this was my Kubernetes cluster on Google Cloud, and these were the 3 nodes. So it starts with GKE cluster 2, and this is what we know. This is also what we see here. So yeah, it's exactly the same. And if you want to go to your corresponding node, you can just do a quick search, and here you see the information about what are the CPU resources consumed by each node, what are the file systems, and the interfaces, memory and pod resources.
Yes, I have one question. The setup was only the server account and the role. That does only work for Kubernetes 1.17 and not for 1.18, out of my head.
So for 1.18, everything works. 1.8, 19, or 1.20, everything works except the interfaces and file system.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is actually the limitation of the Python Kubernetes API that we use.
Mm-hmm.
This comes from. So I think this is also mentioned in the documentation here. So for example, this is the Python client that we use inside our special agent, and
Mm-hmm.
here they have started working on. They have started providing support for 1.7, 1.17 onwards. They say that they have implemented for 18 and 19, but it's like a plus minus. So not everything appears for 18 or above. So this is the problem.
Okay. So if you download the 2.0 beta 4 version, that's also incorporated in that version from
That's right.
Checkmk. Okay.
So right now I'm using B5. This has the latest Kubernetes special agent,
Mm-hmm.
which with which you can monitor all the Kubernetes version. But there's another thing. We have a Prometheus integration for which I have a talk in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, you can monitor everything, and then you can relay the data in the same way using Piggyback to. So with that, you can monitor almost everything.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right.
One question: which Rancher versions are supported?
I think I tried the recent latest Rancher version, and that is also supported. But I think we have not mentioned any. Let me check if I have we have mentioned any. But as far as I have tried the latest version of Rancher, and for that it works.
The Rancher is in version 2.5 for the moment. And 2.4 and older one 1.6.
I mean, I know that the documentation was written almost 1.5 years ago, in the first time, or 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so it was tested back then with the latest version, which was 2 years ago latest. So
Okay.
that's
Okay, thanks.
But I'm sure that also works with the 2.5. But if you face any issues, you are welcome to give us some feedback if something doesn't work with the latest version.
Okay, thank you.
So, all right. So if we don't have any questions, then I will go back to my on-prem cluster. So this is the on-prem cluster that I have. I have a master and a worker, all have the same same version, and I am running some pods here. So I have 2 namespaces with the Kube system and Prometheus. So I'm also running Prometheus as a pod inside my Kubernetes cluster. In order to, again, it's the same thing. So this is how you get the CA cert, and this is how you get the token. Once you have both these information, before that, I have this YAML file, which I already applied. It's the same one which I copied from the GitHub, from our official GitHub repo. And then I applied it. And after that, I created using the base64 decode, I got the CA cert and our token. And after getting this information, so basically, if you would like to see it, what I've done here, let's go to our FOSDEM site. So that's my on-prem cluster. If I want to see, okay, so at the moment I have not set up anything on my on-prem cluster, so which is like, all right, I have not set up anything here. Let me do that. So this is the command line that, so basically now I have using the special agent of Kubernetes. This is the command line that gets generated, and you can also copy paste this to here and directly run it on your command line. Here, directly run it on the command line, and this is basically the data that gets piggybacked. So there are different sections which contains piggybacked sections of the hosts that are queried using the source host. If you want to try different options, you can also add the debug switch and get some more information. I don't remember all the options by heart, but if you would like to try all the options, you get, this is how using the --help switch, you get all the other options, which you can also try it from the command line. Let's go back to our as now I will show you quickly where we have to upload our, but first where we have to upload our certificates and the token that we saw on the command line. All right, so this is the trust store where you upload the certificates. So we have this is what my Kubernetes cluster certificate looks like. This is for the GKE, and this is for my on-premise. And then once you have uploaded this certificate, then you have to do the same thing. Go back to your data source program rule and copy the token here. If you don't want to store it like here, you can also use our password store and then reference that password variable inside this rule, inside this field. I'm again using a namespace prefix, and I'm again ignoring the certificate errors. So after that, this is the information that I'm interested in. I don't have any endpoint daemons sets. Again, I'm tied this to my own Kubernetes on-prem cluster, and I think I already showed that I created this host. So this is something that is running on my my home internet network. It belongs to the same subnet. Now let's go to the DCD rule. That's my Kate on-prem DCD. It's the same. Now, and the only difference is that I have changed the source host, and then I changed the folder in which I want it to be created. So I also already have a host group rule for this folder. So which you will see on your right-hand side once I activate this DCD rule. And let's get. So now, as you can see, we already started getting some the Kubernetes resources getting created, which are from my Kubernetes on-prem cluster. So here we see that the host objects get created with their namespaces. This, for example, this is my Prometheus namespace, and this is my kubesystem namespace. And after that, once they are added, discovery is performed, and then using the discovery, they get inventorized with the returned information from the special agent. So so basically, when I click here, I'm not activating the changes. I'm actually refreshing this page. We can also do it from here, or we can also do it from here. The activation only happens when I click on this button. So now we have around 689 services. As you can see on the right-hand side, now the host group got activated because now we have some hosts inside that folder. Now, if I click on here, I can quickly go to all my objects which have been created from my on-prem Kubernetes. If I want to quickly search it, I can also search my namespace. For example, I'm only interested in Prometheus. Okay, so it also gives this because the Prometheus kubelet is there in that kube system namespace. But of course, you can use the regex power of regex here. So you can tell it, okay, I want to see anything that starts with the word keyword Prometheus, and that's how you will filter out everything. So you are only interested in all the resources from your Prometheus namespace. So yeah, that's so these are some of the ways with which you can set up your Kubernetes cluster monitoring. And these are all the resource objects. If I just click on the host here, and if I go back to the now, this is the return data that we received outside of the using the special agent. If we want to, if there is so whenever this data gets added, it has some default thresholds. But if you obviously want to modify anything, then these are the custom rules. For example, you can edit the roles, network resources, namespace paths usage, port. So let's quickly go through that. Again, if you don't understand what these rules are, you can always activate the inline help, which will explain you. For example, this is self-explanatory. These are there's a total value, the cluster roles, how many of them should be there, how many roles should be there. But of course, there are also some complex. For example, the level of error rates, what it does. So this is where you get some information about it, and you can define it here. So with these different rules, you can control the thresholds, configure the thresholds on each of your resources that you query using your Kubernetes integration. Are there any questions? at the moment.
So going forward, what we want to do is we want to structure the entire data a little bit more, so that when you take a look at it right now, you have basically you can do it like Sudhir. You can basically create the host groups, which works well. But like you basically have the pods, the services, deployments, all this information is put into one big view. Yeah, and what we want to do, for example, is to structure that information a little bit so that you have a more logical visualization of your Kubernetes environment, so that it makes easier to understand more about the health of your Kubernetes cluster.
I also spoke to Martin yesterday because I missed the presentation yesterday, and he said that in future versions there will be also a filter to filter specific namespaces or labels in the Kubernetes agent.
So, Sudhir, can you go to the Kubernetes rule?
Yeah.
Then I will show what will actually be added. So right now, can you turn off the inline help?
Yeah, already did that.
Okay, great. So what we'll add is basically next to this namespace prefix for hosts, we will add another field where you can say you can enter your namespaces, and then only the namespaces which you have entered will be added to the monitoring.
Okay, and could that also be extended by, for example, if I added a label to a namespace or a pod that, based on the label, the filter is being executed?
So that you label in Kubernetes in the cluster yourself the different things, and then that is not on the plan yet.
Because then you can more fine-grain filter, because if you have a namespace with 1,000 pods and you only want to monitor 2 or 3 pods, then you can select probably better on a label that's being defined on an instance than on a specific namespace.
Mm-hmm.
Or it can be done both.
I wonder if Checkmk already has a mechanism for that we only that we do not monitor hosts, or that we do not have hosts in our monitoring based on the label. Yeah, so I think currently we don't have that feature.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we don't have that feature at the moment, but I think this is a good idea. If you want to fine grain and restrict it to a label and namespace, then yes, for sure that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
But right now we don't have it, and we can also add this to our roadmap.
So
Yeah.
the label functionality we cannot deliver in the next couple of weeks, I think, but the namespace stuff we will definitely do.
Mm-hmm.
And the label stuff we can then do in like after we have done our 2.0 release, we can give that in via probably one of our extensions, or like one of like we can see how we deliver that feature out. But it should be possible. Yeah.
Okay, that would be great.
I have to write it down for myself so that I don't forget that.
Yeah, I didn't look at it yet, but when you use the Kubernetes agent, do you then also get all the labels from the pod being imported into Checkmk? Or don't you use any labels from Kubernetes?
For example, if I have, let's take one of the pods.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take this one. So, for example, these are the labels that we have for example, this is a kubelet,
Mm-hmm.
and these are the labels that we have. I think this is coming from the piggyback connector for our for which we have enabled for this returned host object. But I believe this is the labels that we are getting from Kubernetes.
Okay.
And these are the ones which we have So these are the standard ones which we normally create for each resource, and this is the one.
Okay, so in the meantime, I could filter on Checkmk labels. And
Yes, you can do that. For example,
then create a role. Do not monitor this instance.
For example, if you're here, you can always choose the label. For example, there is has and has not, and you can put a key value. Like if you already have a label, then you could put a key colon value here, and has not. With this switch, you can negate it, and you can also include everything.
Yeah, but that
based on those.
This will not apply to. This is based on the Kubernetes. It will not apply to the pods now. So if you want to not monitor things, this has to be done a different rule. Like if you say do not monitor all hosts which have the label blah blah blah, that is a different rule which you have to use.
Yeah.
I don't know the name of the rule. Alex and Sudhir probably know the name of the rule of hosts which I do not want to monitor.
I think it was hosts. Host to be monitored, and here you have a rule excluding the matched host from the set, and here you can define the condition.
Okay.
So host to be monitored, and here you can negate it using has not and or has, because you want to exclude. So you can play around with this rule in order to check whether your labels are based on their labels. If all the hosts that you are fetching are being ignored, or you don't want to monitor this host, so it is definitely worth to try this rule.
Okay, yeah. So I can use this in the meantime before that function is available in the Kubernetes agent.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
right.
Yeah. So I think if there are no further questions, then I think thank you very much from my side.